welcome back to another episode of the Lonely Liberal Podcast. I am your host, Nick Zankin, and I'm so happy to have you on this lovely Sunday evening. We got a great show for you today. Rick and I are going to go through the news like we do every single Sunday, and we got a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alrighty, and we are back with Rick, and I know I said I was going to come up with a better intro, but I froze and chickened out. So what's going on?
Hey, great to be back. How's it going with you?
Good. I'm feeling pretty good. We got some listener question. I don't know why user. It's like user feedback from our software. Listener questions. And we have two that I wanted to read today. We have one that's politics related and one that's not politics related. I think we should do one in the beginning of the show and one at the end. Do you want to do the non-politics or politics one first?
Let's do the politics one.
Oh, good. Well, we almost never get those. They're almost
Yeah.
We almost simply never get actual politics questions. We always get specifically love life and lifestyle.
Yeah, last time we got a politics question, it was what politician are you most romantically attracted to? So I don't know.
This is
about the categories.
Exactly. Somehow this show has really become pop culture and lifestyle. What's the best exercises to grow your calves with Rick? No, so this one comes from Connor. Again, no location. Please write in where you're writing in from. He asks us, what are our number one political issues? So if you were a single, your number one most important single issue, when you're looking at a candidate and stuff like that.
It's a great question. So I definitely wouldn't consider myself a single issue voter.
Same.
But if I had to choose one issue, I would definitely choose healthcare. Obviously talking about U.S. politics specifically, I just think it's the area that the U.S. is most far behind the rest of the advanced world. It's just such a glaring, obvious issue and would help so many people. So I'm a big supporter of single-payer healthcare and think we need to move to it ASAP. So definitely healthcare for me. How about you?
That's a good one. It's a good question. I feel like what I'd want, it's different. So if we were watching people campaign right now, I'd want to hear what they have about affordability, just because I think it's the most important topic for most people, right? So what I would say, I wouldn't think would win you a campaign, where I feel like nowadays you need to get affordability right. But for me, like you were saying, it's probably climate change, renewable, energy, energy, climate change. I mean, that's, I guess, not a surprise. People know that's my job stuff. But I just feel not only do I think climate change is the most important topic from a human point of view, I think energy and electricity and stuff like this is really close with it, just because the way the world is going. We've talked about it on the show. It drove me nuts that I don't think Kamala really talked about climate change at all. I've been reading things that people say that it's not a winning issue anymore and they need to fade away from it. That drives me nuts. You know what I mean? I feel like climate change was finally coming around, and clean energy, renewables and stuff like that was starting to become kind of just an inevitability. And I really think it's weird that the Democrats have kind of put it aside a bit. But yeah, that would be my number one. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, and you're right. Harris just kind of gave up on that topic completely. They're like, what do you think about climate change? She's like, cloudy with a chance of glocks on the menu.
Yeah, exactly. I love fracking. No one loves fracking more than me. Kamala fracking hair. It's just I just don't get it. To me, it's such an easy one.
And it's an area that Biden actually got some stuff done on, right?
Yeah, he was probably the most successful out of any president in history for renewables, development. To me, it was just a big fumble, and I would like to see it come back as one of the talking points, because literally the entire world is in lockstep here. From China to France, you know what I mean? Every country is doing this the same way other than us.
Right, exactly.
And it just doesn't make any sense why that shouldn't be just a gimme But yeah, anyway, so we got a lot to talk about. And the first thing we're going to talk about, well, first of all, actually, great question. Thank you, Connor. That was a great question. But anyways, we have a lot to talk about. One thing is the Epstein files, dun, dun, dun. In the sense that both the House and the Senate, and then Trump, have voted to release the Epstein files. Finally, the law was called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And yeah, they have 30 days to release them, and that makes it December 19th. Now, there's a lot to talk about the release of this stuff, but what were your initial thoughts when you saw this get through?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm happy about it. Obviously, the thing that pushed it through was Trump himself changing his mind and saying, you know what, let's release him. That was the only thing that pushed most Republicans to get on board with it. The bills passed the Senate and the House almost unanimously. Didn't like one person in the House vote against it or something?
Yeah.
We got to look into that guy.
I wonder what's going on over there.
But yeah, pretty much as unanimous as you can get. I was curious what the bill said specifically about like what can be redacted, and apparently the bill that passed says they can redact things like personally identifiable information about the victims, classified information that should be kept secret in the interest of national defense or foreign policy, or information that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or prosecution. But withholding such info must be narrowly tailored and temporary. So I think the good side of that is like the bill does get somewhat specific with saying like you can only redact for these reasons and you can't just go blocking out every famous person's name in it because you want to protect them or whatever. So overall, I'm happy about it. I think maybe people should temper their expectations about like famous people in the files and like giant news stories, because we've gotten a lot of those from the files that have been released so far. And I guess I'm just a little bit cynical about how Trump changed his mind on it. And it's like, okay, if there was anything even more conclusive than what's been released so far, which has been pretty conclusive, like we talked about last week, then I don't think Trump would have ever changed his mind on it. So that's why my expectations aren't super high. But overall, I'm looking forward to them being released. How about you?
Yeah, so really quick, the guy who voted no, Representative Clay Higgins from Louisiana. What's up, Clay? The only no vote in the House. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the interesting point, right? What will be redacted and what won't be. You saw Mike Johnson this week saying that we need to be redacting the names of the people who are guilty for national security reasons. Why is that a national security risk? If these politicians are, whatever, that's not a good look. I mean, I don't like that idea. But I mean, at the same time, I was talking about this with my dad, actually. I feel like this is the only way these files could come out with anyone from the right really believing them, because if these files were released by Biden, I feel like the MAGA world would just say these are all doctored and not believe anything, because they were already claiming that the DOJ was weaponized against Trump for whatever the case, the felony charges, whatever. So, like, I highly doubt they would not believe, like, they would believe any documents that came out of the Biden administration. So, well, it makes me sus that, like, they're coming from an administration that's clearly doing everything in its power to protect some people, and now they've been forced to cave. I don't know. I feel like this is the only path forward. And like you said, I worry that maybe that won't happen. I also think, though, that the documents we saw last week were so, in my opinion, kind of, that's it. You know what I mean? That was the final straw I think anyone should really reasonably have. That if they're even slightly worse than the documents we've already seen, they're insane, right? Like, we had Bubba blowing and Epstein saying Trump knew about the girls, and I've got photos of him with the girls. He's a scumbag, not a decent cell in his body last week. So what does it even mean to be like a little bit worse than that? Like, insanity, right?
Right. And yeah, we shouldn't, like, we should keep reminding people of those things that were released in the last dump because, like, I think part of the reason Trump may have reversed course on this and decided to release them is because the worst stuff has already come out.
Yep.
Like, when people need to remember that Trump has fought the release of these files every single step of the way since his term started. Like, it's been, these files don't exist. Well, they do exist, but they're not important. Well, actually, they existed, but it was a Democrat conspiracy. Whereas now, everyone admits they exist. So, like, we need to remember that clearly there was something to hide, or else Trump wouldn't have acted like that for the past 8 months.
And it very well could be what we've already seen. Exactly, to your point. And no, you're so right, though. Like, the story of how we got here is so important, because I thought these files were not real, right? Like, we've been told for 9 months now that these are myth, right? Didn't Pam Bondi literally come out and say there is no Epstein file? There are no Epstein files? Like, isn't that a thing that happened? The Attorney General?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they just lie and lie and lie, and I don't even know what else to say about that. But one of the most interesting outcomes of this whole Epstein debacle, I think, and I didn't even put this on our list because I forgot to, but, like, was the drama with Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Representative Greene. She's obviously historically been one of the staunchest Trump supporters since she's kind of got into politics. She's one of the most right-wing people, famous for her conspiracies around Jews controlling the weather. I feel like that's one of her most signature policy things. Rick, would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, Jewish space lasers.
She's
right?
really, really thinks that the weather is being manipulated by the Jewish folks. That being said, she has been very, very vocally pro the release of the Epstein files and, you know, been standing with the victims and stuff like that. And, you know, it showed a lot of good character from her. And recently, as of last week, she's announced that she's resigning from Congress. This will be the end of it. And it is amidst her constant bickering with Trump on social media. So for starters, that's crazy that she's just throwing it in. I mean, not crazy that she's doing that from a personal level, but just it's crazy that that's happening. But the thing that really stuck out to me, right, is she's been, getting attacks from the left since her day one, because she's so far right, and it has had no issue at all, like, in her mental health. She's been now getting attacks for a MAGA for like a couple of weeks, and she immediately had to call it. It just shows you the level of intensity they must be bringing, right? And what basically, like, they've done to her in the last few weeks, right? I mean, she didn't have any issue with the other ones. So my hunch is that they're just that much more intense, like the threats and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, 18-year-old boys that call themselves groypers sounds pretty intense to me.
Nick Fuentes.
But she does kind of remind me of Sarah Palin in that she hurled so much crazy right-wing bullshit at Democrats and anybody on the left and made her whole career out of it. And then the second she gets some shit thrown back at her, she has to retire from politics. Like, that's what happened with Sarah Palin. Like, Sarah Palin was governor for a few years, vice presidential nominee, and then she was like, I'm retiring. Like, the insults were too much. My family went through too much. And yeah, it's a little bit, ironic coming from them.
Don't you think?
But I think you have a good point, though, whereas like, she's been called a batshit crazy Nazi since she's been on the scene with Trump, and that didn't bother her. But MAGA people being like, you were defending a pedo now, really got to her fast.
Immediately. And it's funny that, well, it just shows you, like, how not often it happens where because the right wing usually, like, especially on the federal level, like, they have such a drumbeat of support for each other. It so very rarely happens where one of them gets kind of targeted from within. You know what I mean? The conservative wing. And when it does, it's just devastating. They just can't shake it. And so she'll be missed. I mean, she did provide a lot of great content. So pour one out for MTG. She's gone.
Yeah. If she wants to get her thoughts out on, a widespread, well-known platform. The Lonely Liberals here.
Yeah, we'd love to have her. She's actually someone that at least one of the things I will give her credit for is she clearly believes everything she says. She didn't seem to back off even when Trump backed off of her original stuff. She kept pretty true to it. So while it may be crazy, it does seem like it's honest from her point of view.
Right.
And we do love that. Another little interesting nugget that kind of is a fallout from this Epstein drama is a lot of the drama with Larry Summers. Larry Summers was in a lot of the recent batch of Epstein emails, but I think it's been known for a while that he was Epstein adjacent, right? I don't think that's breaking news.
Right. And we should say too, like, he's a controversial figure outside of anything having to do with Epstein.
True.
He's controversial as an economist because he was Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, and then he was president of Harvard from 2001 to 2006, and he had to resign as part of this growing scandal because he's made a lot of comments about why women are underrepresented in science and engineering, because he has a theory that that's due to men having higher intelligence on the like very high IQ end of the spectrum, and specifically he thinks men have an intrinsic aptitude towards science that women do not naturally have. So obviously, being president of the most well-known university in the world, you probably shouldn't have those views or say them publicly.
Jesus Christ.
So that ended his academic career. But he was an economic advisor to Obama. And he's like been an advisor to people in both parties. But yeah, I wanted to note that like he has this sort of like cultural controversy side of him that doesn't even have to do to his relationship with Epstein. And he's complained about cancel culture because of his experience with all of that stuff. So you can kind of see, the wheels turning, like, oh, he's going to bring up cancel culture again with this Epstein stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you see like a stand-up comedian get like canceled or like fired from something, like they immediately become conservative and go on Joe Rogan's podcast to complain for 3 hours because it's like, oh, the only people that will accept me now are conservatives. That kind of seems like what's happening to him. But yeah, he did have to resign from OpenAI. So clearly people are like locked in on the Epstein thing in general, which is good.
Exactly. That's why I think it's interesting is that because the OpenAI, while not as in the Trump sphere as much as the, Musk, Zuck, Bezos, I guess, they are, AI and regulation and stuff like this is so intertwined. So even in them are taking a more cautious approach because of all this stuff. And it makes you wonder, like, I feel like he's got I don't know. You never know. But like, I feel like his name pops up quite a bit. And don't love that. And actually, speaking of Musk, before we get to the Zohran stuff, this just happened, I think, literally this morning. So it's breaking news. The DOGE department is getting disbanded. And what's so interesting about it, the Department of Government Efficiency, it's getting dissolved. It got dissolved this morning, and it's 8 months before it was supposed to end. So it was originally supposed to end in July 26. And yeah, it's over. So we were joking about how we hadn't heard anything about it. Yeah, I think they just haven't been doing anything at all, and it's done. So it's over. I mean, so that was a big bust. Well, what did it do?
And even though this story just broke in the last like day or two, like you said, like it's not going to break any bigger. Nobody's going to talk about this. It's going to be totally overshadowed by all the other stories we're talking about. And yeah, it just goes to show you what we've said before, which is that neither party really cares about the deficit or debt. Like it's far, far down on the list of priorities. Trump has never cared about it other than the DOGE stuff. But
that was obviously a performance piece. You know what I mean? They couldn't get further than, I mean, they're ending halfway through, basically. I mean, they didn't even have
Right,
enough
just
material for a full...
fading away into darkness.
Yeah, that will now be gone. It was just an Elon Musk publicity stunt, basically, that totally backfired in every way, shape, or form. And they were clearly unable to actually show any tangible efficiency because they don't exist anymore.
Right. And they're just, what you're going to see is what's been happening the past few months, which is a lot of these agencies in the federal government slowly start hiring back some of the people they fired.
Yeah, because they were idiots. And that's what's like so frustrating about this whole thing. And yeah, I mean, the only kind of cause for concern, though, is these DOGE dudes are going to get reappointed to other staff. So great. We're going to have Big Balls and his boys in like the Department of like Social Security and in the IRS and all these things.
We can't escape that guy.
No, Big Balls. I mean, that guy, I'm surprised he hasn't had a commemorative coin made for him yet or something like that. He's gotten every freaking like badge of honor that the president can effectively give.
Yeah, can I transfer my Melania coin to Big Ball coin?
Yeah, please. Not on crypto.com, who is not a sponsor for the show. And yeah, so another huge news story this week that I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about with was Zohran Mamdani, the now mayor-elect of New York City. Congrats again to Zohran. Met with Trump at the Oval Office. They met and had some meetings. It's a big deal, obviously, for the New York City mayor to sit down with the president, but that's not so shocking. What was so shocking was Trump fell in love with Zohran. Apparently, he loves him. He was like, he's great. He's smart. I feel confident in him and as a mayor. Zohran seemed to have charmed him completely. There was, their Q&A after the fact. I thought both Zohran and honestly Trump handled the Q&A really well. There was a lot of good moments in there that we can talk about, from them asking, so you have previously called, Trump a fascist. Do you still think that? And Trump's like, yeah, you can keep calling me a fascist. I don't care. Which makes you wonder, like, he doesn't even know what that word means. But yeah, it's an interesting take. There are a lot of opinions to talk about why. Not only why is this happening, but how did this end up happening to be so positive? I have a lot of thoughts on this that I will end up ranting. So, Rick, I want you to go first before I monologue. And I'm wondering if we think something similar. So, what do you think about this meetup? And what do you think about Trump, falling for Zohran's charm?
When I first saw the headline that referred to them as having a chummy meeting or something like that, I was still not ready for just how chummy it was, I gotta say.
Yeah, it was very chummy. Their best bud. Yeah, they got along really well.
Trump has reversed course on so many things. I mean, I've said before, like, Trump has had the opposite opinion on almost every major issue. Like, pick an issue out of a hat: free trade, abortion, immigration, and you can find quotes where he has supported totally opposite things. That's just like the way Trump is. He doesn't have any real hardened political views of his own. It's kind of always changing and always what would benefit him in the moment. But that being said, I don't remember ever seeing a 180. I guess the Epstein files is a good example of him saying they don't exist to now saying release them. But this is a 180 where it's like a record scratch 180, where it's like literally 1 week ago, Trump endorsed Andrew Cuomo and said a bad Democrat is better than a communist. A communist will end life in New York City. Like, you cannot get more dramatic than that, than saying he's going to end the city because he's a communist, and then 1 week later he's this great guy. Nothing, I hope he succeeds, we agree on so much. It's just a hell of a turnaround. But yeah, what are your feelings on this one?
So I feel like the first thought that I had, and again when I was talking to my dad about this, was his typical Zankin paranoia, which I have as well, of just, this is a scam. He's using this as a smokescreen to get away from Epstein, right? Like, just everything is that. But then the more we thought about it and the more I think about it, it's part of a larger thought I have, and it's borderline conspiracy thought. Are you ready for my theory? So I'm starting to think this, and I want to preface my theory with the fact that I'm not giving this as an excuse to Trump any shape or form. Like, I'm not trying to call him a victim. I'm not at all trying to say this before I go, because I don't have much sympathy for this guy at all. That being said, I'm starting to think this is an emperor's new clothes. You know the myth, the emperor's new clothes, right? He's naked and they're like, "Yo, we love your outfit." You know what I mean? Like, and his lackeys are like, "Oh my God, what a great robe." I'm starting to think it's the emperor has no clothes on type moment, where I think that what's happening here, because there's multiple times now that this is seeming to pop up, where I don't think, first of all, I think Trump has a non-functioning brain. Like, I think he's senile. I think he's Biden level senile. Like, I really do think that. I think he's an old man who is not really operating at full capacity. I think also, and we've gotten like insight on this with those cabinet meetings, where they're like these North Korea styled cabinet meetings where they're just praising him all the time. And I also don't think Trump really reads the news. I think he only listens to Fox, which is effectively state propaganda at this point. So I'm starting to think he's so insulated from the outside world, and his lackeys are so committed to manipulating him and getting him to do what they want and know how to fire him up in specific ways, where I'm starting to think that he actually starts thinking the stuff that he's saying. Like, he thinks Zohran's like a jihadist communist. And so when he meets him, he's like, "Oh, this guy's not bad. Like, he's pretty reasonable." You know what I mean? Like, and there have been a few examples of this. And if I was going to clip this up, and I might do my Wednesday episode on this, where like, he's like, "I've been told that this guy's a communist and this guy's awful. And, we're talking, he doesn't think any of that stuff." Like, he just says that in the thing. And it reminds me of when he was talking about sending the National Guard to Portland, Oregon, because he said it was a war zone. And he's like, "I talked to the governor of Oregon. She says everything's fine. How come my people aren't telling me that?" And it sounds unbelievable, right? Because Google exists and he's the president of the United States. But I'm starting to truly think that the Steve Millers, the Russell Vaught's, like all these heritage guys, all these nuts, like Vance guys, are like, have realized, and this isn't groundbreaking, but like, this is an egomaniac with no morals at all. He's got the charisma to weaponize people's emotions in a way that allows us to make our kind of like Christian nationalist state that we've been wanting to build forever. Trump has no belief in policy whatsoever, like you were saying. So like, he's a perfect vehicle to get what they want, which is all of these like Christian national stuff. And there's so many reasons to think this, right? Like, we've talked about it on the show. Like, do we really think that Trump understands like the Foreign Aliens Act of 1792 or the Jones Act of 19, like, no, yet all of this stuff is going. So we already like accept the fact that Trump is doing policy decisions that he doesn't truly understand, And I'm starting to think that it's not only just that. I think they're insulating him so much, and he's just the perfect level of egomaniac and senile that he doesn't double check anything. So when these moments of like actual human interaction with these people that they've labeled so insane, he has no choice but to be a person, you know what I mean, in those moments, and goes, "Oh, this guy's pretty nice. Like, what are we talking about here?" You know what I mean? I think that's what's happening. And there's a lot more examples I could rattle off of this where I think we have historically thought he's just lying, which I'm not saying that he's not sometimes, but I'm saying like, I think the lying thing has always given him too much credit of being smart, when in reality, he's just kind of getting fired up by his lackeys and just has started to believe the bullshit so much that he's totally cooked. Like, that's what I'm starting to think that. What are your thoughts on my theory? I'll take my tinfoil hat off.
No, I agree with that. I guess the question is, why wouldn't Trump still believe the Heritage Foundation right-wing narrative of Zohran being a crazy communist?
Because he met him, and Zohran isn't a crazy communist.
Right.
Right? Like when you meet him, you're like, "Oh, this guy kind of sounds," and it's always been true, to some extent, like the horseshoe of like far left and far right, where like they kind of start getting similar, the populism and stuff like that, where like they have a lot of similar themes. You know what I mean? Like the average person's getting screwed. I can fix it with this thing. You know what I mean? Like obviously they're complete opposites of the spectrum, but it's part of the reason why I think like a lot of people voted for Bernie and Trump, you know what I mean? Or like them both. The outsider type thing. Another example of what I was talking about, you could say, Rick, and we talked about it on the show, was you remember with the big beautiful bill and like, oh, like it's not going to cut Medicaid, like him just being like, what are you talking about? I told them not to cut it and they said they didn't cut it. Like at the time I was like, he's just lying and is insane. But what if he actually thinks that? Like what if it's like they just told him, oh yeah, we don't. He doesn't read these bills. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And he just thinks everything is fake because they go, oh, those are fake polls. Oh, that's bullcrap. We're fine. Everything's growing. The country's saved. You're a genius. You're so incredible. Build your ballroom. It's almost like they gave him the ballroom project to distract him while they continually act insane. Like, I don't know. Like, because to your point, I think we continually are getting proven that he doesn't have any strong policy opinions other than policies that give him more power.
Right. I totally agree. I think, though, the single biggest factor in why this meeting was so chummy was because Zohran charmed Trump. Now, how did Zohran charm Trump? He complimented him and filled his ego. I just think, based on what we know about Trump, about how he basically, Trump's views on other countries and their leaders, pretty much the only factor that goes into that is how much they've sucked up to Trump and complimented his gold and his White House. So, like, I do think I think Zohran is obviously, he's a really smart guy, but I think there's one true way to Trump's heart, and that's to tell him how awesome he is. And I think that's what had to have happened.
I think so.
I think we should, you mentioned it briefly, but when at the press conference after, when the reporters pushed Zohran on, is Trump a fascist? You called him a fascist recently. And you see Zohran like starting to answer, and Trump cuts him off and stops him. And Trump says this when he cuts off Zohran giving his response. He says, just say yes. It's easier. It's easier that way. It's just easier. It's easier than explaining, and then he trails off.
Yeah.
So
isn't that Trump 101?
So of course it's funny because Trump's like, just say yes, call me a fascist, I don't care. But he started to say it's easier than explaining ...
Yep.
What was there to explain?
Why you called him a fascist, aka why he's a
right. So did Zohran tell Trump, I shouldn't have called you a fascist, I actually think you're a great guy and a great leader? Like, how much, I guess my question is, how much did he suck up? Like, what do you think their conversation in private was actually like?
I think it's partially that, and I also think but I actually think it's more that they just shitted on the current state of New York City, and they bonded over New York City being unaffordable and a dump. That would be my guess, because that's kind of what Zohran does in an elegant way, right? Is saying, like, no one can afford anything. It's a disaster. Like, look at all the homeless people you have. Why can't the richest city in the world get, subway cards and stuff like that? And I think Trump would agree on a lot of that because he loves calling places that are liberal dumps, right? New York City's gone to shit. Like, I feel like they both agree with the premise of New York City's gone to shit. And I think like, and I don't even know if that's true or not, but I think they do agree on that. So like my hunch is that the thing that both populist people agree on is that everything's fucked and we need to fix it because it's like us versus them. And I don't think Trump and Zohran agree on the us versus them, obviously, but like, it's pretty basic stuff. Like, it's a dump. People can't afford houses. We need to build affordable houses, Donald. You're right. Why don't they build affordable houses? I don't know. The government sucks. We need to make the government better. Yeah, you're right. The government does suck. You know what I mean? Like, this feels like a conversation I can imagine someone having with Trump and him getting in on, Like, and like you said, like, sprinkle in enough praise about like, I bet they could have also bonded over the media bashing them, Like, can you believe the New York Times and the this? Can you believe? Because they both got absolutely railed on by the mainstream media. I bet you they could have bonded on that.
They bonded over their hatred of Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Bernie and Trump at one point, like, sometimes you hear Bernie going, I actually agree with what Trump's saying. He won't do it. But you know what I mean? You hear that sometimes out of them. I think that there's some horseshoe kind of point where they agree on, like, this is a scam. You know what I mean? And I think if they focus on this as a scam, but obviously the motivation for Zohran obviously is he just doesn't want them to cut federal funds. But
Right.
can't you imagine Zohran going, like, crime in New York City is out of control and all the Mayor Adams, they just made it worse and worse. And I get it. You're trying your best, but these people suck. So we need to figure that out. You know what I mean? And then him being like, totally. Adams
Totally.
is getting in my way.
And you saw it at the very beginning of the press conference. They talked about Trump said, a lot of my supporters voted for him.
Yep.
And so I think Zohran, that was part of them bonding, was him being like, President Trump, a lot of my supporters voted for you because they want us to fix all that's wrong in New York City. I agree. And like, as far as the horseshoe goes, I really don't want to give Trump credit for any of these things, but I think you could, if you had to be generous, you could say what they have in common is they're both kind of fed up and impatient with capitalism. Like, they both agree that a pure old school free market neoliberal economic approach isn't working. Now, Trump's approach to that has been to slap tariffs on top of everything else and not do one other thing to help the middle class, which is very different from what Zohran is proposing. But I totally agree with you there. Like, I think they probably bonded over their current opinions of New York City and affordability in general. And another piece that I thought was interesting was the near universal support for Zohran acting chummy. Because I think right-wing media might give the impression of, this guy's a communist, so he would never sit at a table with a Republican and negotiate a bipartisan bill. Like, he's way too left-wing. Whereas Zohran is, like, really stresses being pragmatic while also being left-wing. So I was kind of, like, pleasantly surprised to see that people were, like, okay with Zohran sort of taking this, like, pragmatic approach to Trump, like, if it helps the people. Now, if Trump sends in the military and does massive ICE raids next week and, like, goes back on the whole meeting with Zohran, then I think kind of it might be time for Zohran to, get his balls back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen that, remember, like, with the Biden chumminess, the Kamala chum, we've seen this not work. You know what I mean? Like, Trump's amnesia is strong. But, like, I do wonder, though, like, and this is the thing that it goes back to my original conspiracy, which is just, like, I wonder how much he's, like, I kind of really do think Trump is really senile and old. Like, I wonder if, like, just hearing him talk, like, if you put it on another character, you'd be like, what are they saying? Like, and you know what's another thing too is that, like, Trump also, like, thinks of himself as the first one to think of, like, the price of food and grocery prices as, like, a campaign thing, and that was his big campaign. Like, he thinks he invented that as, like,
it's so funny.
I know.
It's the most common thing to talk about in the entire history of politics.
100%. And he's like, every time you hear him bring it up, he's like, people weren't talking about groceries until I said it. And you heard him bring it up again. And I think, like, Zohran probably being clever was like, I'm with you with the groceries. You know what I mean? And, like, he's like, it's so refreshing to hear someone bring up grocery prices. And he's probably like, it is refreshing I did that. Like, I could see that happening and seeing them, like, get along. Another thing that Zohran does really, really well in these situations is he never goes off New York City. Anytime, like, they try to get him to comment on federal issues or foreign policy, he just always brings it back to New York. He will not answer a question that isn't directly related to New York City. And I think that's really sharp because he just doesn't ever take the bait in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, we'll see how the weeks follow. Last thing, though, I mean, you got to think Vance and these fucks, they were steaming watching this happen.
Of course, because they have spent so much time villainizing Zohran as a communist and specifically characterizing Zohran as like the new face of the Democratic Party. Like, it's not enough just for them to smear Zohran as an individual. Like, they're trying to make Zohran be the face of the Democratic Party because they think he's so radical that no moderate would ever vote for a Democrat if they think it's like Zohran. So it kind of, this just like takes like, it just takes all that momentum, and Trump just squashed all that momentum and ill will that had built up against Zohran and against like socialism in general.
100%, because that's another question they asked. They said there was which I didn't even know this, there was a resolution condemning socialism the other day in the House. Okay, like unanimously voted on. All right, well, I don't know why they did that, but they brought it up, and he's like, Zohran's, of course, giving like a political answer, and Trump's like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, they don't care. I don't think he cares. And actually, two last things on this. One thing that irritated me was I was on Twitter, and I saw that, there was some commentary about this meeting, and the Democratic Party Twitter account was like retweeting some of it and being like, look at him, he loves Zohran, like kind of like trying to rub it in Trump's face. And I was just like, you guys have been nothing but a bane of Zohran's existence, and now you're trying to ride his way. Like, how embarrassing. like they did nothing. What did they do?
Right.
The DNC didn't help him at all. Where's Schumer? Like, and now they're trying to like straddle on. Now they get it. Like, give me a break. They're so fake.
Yeah, the leader of the Democratic Party, who happens to be representing the same state that Zohran was running in, could not bring himself to endorse Zohran.
Yeah.
He's
sassy tweeting.
It was just too much of an emotional quandary for Chuck Schumer to get through.
Between him and freaking Cuomo. And then lastly on this, which is kind of going the rounds on social media, but I love it. I don't know if you've seen this, Rick, the picture. So Trump was out, I think yesterday, after the meeting, and he was in a turtleneck and a jacket. And it's a famous outfit that Zohran wears. And they're like, he loves Zohran so much, he's dressing him like that. And it is true. I've never seen Trump in not his big suit or golf clothes. It is true.
Yeah, I've only ever seen him in a suit or tie or golf clothes, like you said. Maybe like a button down without a tie, very rarely. But yeah, like a red turtleneck. He looked like he was going to a Christmas party or something. I saw one comment that said one meeting with Zohran, and he looks like he's going to see a Broadway play.
Exactly. He looked fabulous. He looked incredible.
Very weird outfit choice.
What do you think about
so funny.
That? Do you think he actually? Do you think it's a coincidence?
Zohran flattered him into socialism and fashion.
He's dressed like a freaking cadre member in his red. He's a one beret short, being like a Soviet academic. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so funny. When I saw that picture, I was dying laughing because it's probably a coincidence, but is it?
Like, he looks so weird in a plain red turtleneck like that.
And the jacket. It's just awesome. No, yeah, that was one of the biggest stories of the week. One story, though, that didn't get a lot of coverage that I wanted to talk about was the Department of Defense this week announced something called Operation Southern Spear, which basically is a formalizing what we've been seeing in Venezuela. So they're calling it like targeting narco-terrorist networks in the Western Hemisphere, basically explaining why they've been bombing boats, but basically just formalizing this stuff. So they're going to use autonomous surface and air assets. They're going to start using more serious reporting mechanisms, and they're going to be stepping up presence in Venezuela. So again, it's a lot of autonomous vehicles, so almost like a robot navy thing. But what's interesting about this is that obviously there's been no approval of this from Congress, which is supposed to be the case with a declaration of war. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting that this is being formalized, but I don't know if this is legal. I don't know enough about this stuff, but yeah, it seems like that Venezuela stuff is not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and I feel like so much of the justification like legally and informally too, is that they're terrorists. Like this,
narco-terrorists.
yeah,
that
this
word,
phrase
yeah.
narco-terrorism. We're talking about like drug dealers that work for cartels or
Yeah.
organize. Like that's what we're talking about. We're talking about people bringing in drugs. Like if you look up the definition of narco-terrorism, it's specifically when drug traffickers try to influence the policies of a government or a society through violence and intimidation to hinder the enforcement of anti-drug laws. I don't know if people bringing cocaine on a boat into the country fits that definition.
No,
Those are just people smuggling drugs. Like they're trying to make it into terrorism so they can justify military intervention, but it doesn't seem like there's evidence of it.
and there hasn't even been clear evidence that those people are even drug dealers. They
Right.
haven't done anything to prove that these guys are even going to the U.S. if they are drug dealers. You know what I mean? Like these boats, they've been in international waters and they're just killing people, and there hasn't really been anything conclusive saying like what they are and who they are, and also like since when can you just give the people death penalty without a trial? Like I don't know, like it's just crazy. It does kind of feel more like a war move than like a terrorist defense move, just because of the international waters aspect of it, right? Or what do you think about that?
Yeah, it does feel like that. And the fact that the guy who announced it renamed his department to war.
Yeah.
Also.
That, yeah, doesn't seem like a defense move. He said they're warriors. Yeah. Exactly.
Secretary of War. It doesn't help.
And yeah, it's just I don't know what to tell you. Like it seems like a war move from the war boys. The Department of War boys. Anyways, we were talking about this earlier about how the environmental stuff is not really forefront in the liberal mind as much anymore, at least from the Democratic Party. A great example of this is that this week the Trump team proposed pretty dramatic rollbacks of the Endangered Species Act, and we don't have to talk all about like basically just what counts as an endangered species, what you're allowed to do around them and stuff like that. So different species like the manatees, the monarch butterfly, anyway, stuff like that. It's interesting. I mean, there will be lawsuits and stuff like this about it, but the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because, like, I feel like if that had happened, like 5 years ago, that would have gotten a big social media push because people really cared about this stuff. The fact that I haven't seen really anything about it on the internet makes me feel like, and I'm in the echo world chamber, makes me wonder, is this just more proof that this is just like not a topical topic anymore?
Right, and you would think the Falconer in Chief, RFK Jr., would have something to say.
Exactly. It's
I
just
saw
interesting.
that one of the changes they're recommending to the Endangered Species Act, basically the list of protected species when they're making criteria for if an animal should fall under that list, they can now consider economics as a factor.
What?
As opposed to, survivability and like environmental concerns. So I thought that was interesting. Like hypothetically, they could take an animal off the endangered list that's still endangered if they said it was an economic concern having those restrictions. It just reminds me of them adding obesity to the list of criteria for
the visas.
immigration policy. Yeah.
And also, like, since when was it the environmental department to like have those types of factors? Like, I thought that was another department's issue.
Right.
It's just there. Yeah, it's you hear it from the EPA head all the time, Lee Zeldin. He's always talking about economics. I'm like, dude, you're the head of the EPA. It's Environmental Protection Agency, not the economic agency. You're not in the Department of Commerce. Anyway, yes, I can't even talk about these things. They piss me off so much. I'm starting to get mad. This is why we're not on video. I'm like getting visibly red. Just thinking about it drives me nuts. One interesting thing, so Laura Loomer, someone we don't talk about on the show that often, but she's a very, pro-Trump activist. This week she said that the GOP has a Nazi problem, which is pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, this is coming after the Young Republicans chat being leaked with a bunch of, Groyper content, which, did they pick Groyper as a name because it sounds like Groper? Like
It's gotta be.
why would Groyper be the name you would pick? Like, what does that mean? But anyways, it's interesting because, Laura Loomer is a famous Trump loyalist, just a big part of the Republican kind of brain trust. And the fact that she's saying this, again, kind of shows you kind of a little bit of dissension from the normal drumbeat, kind of like what happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, in this sort of like civil war within MAGA world, it's really a lot about Israel and
Yeah.
also Jewish people in general. But when Nick Fuentes, the King Groyper, went on Tucker Carlson's show, a lot of that interview focused on. I actually listened to a bunch of it, because I wanted to hurt myself. And
I was gonna say because you love self-torture. No, you're doing God's work. You're trying to figure out what's going on over there.
It's hard for me to watch Tucker Carlson. I gotta say, it's a difficult. Hearing his bullshit reactions and his dumb face. It's tough.
He's so tough. And the name Tucker alone,
of course. But a lot of the interview was basically Nick Fuentes talking about how he was canceled within MAGA Republican world because he opposes Israel in general. And he basically says he lost all these jobs at the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's company, and these other right-wing media jobs because he was so outspoken against Israel. Now, there's different ways to read that, and obviously he's gone further saying things about Jewish people than just Israel.
Of course.
But it created a lot of controversy because the president of the Heritage Foundation, which wrote Project 2025, he's friends with Tucker Carlson, and so he put out a statement defending Tucker for having Fuentes on his show. And then that statement sort of kicked off this whole civil war about like, how should we allow people in the party that are vehemently anti-Israel or debatably anti-Semitic? And so that's kind of what this like Laura Loomer's statement was basically in response for that. She said, the GOP has a Nazi problem, and the more we pretend like we don't, the worse it's going to get. People can get mad at me for saying this, but it's true. I have no problem with people criticizing Israel. I even said end aid to Israel, but let's admit this isn't about Israel. So her side about it is like people like Fuentes are actually anti-Semitic and going too far. The Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson side is there's nothing anti-Semitic about criticizing Israel. All we've done is criticize Israel, and that should be fine because America is first and America is number one.
I would be more prone to give Tucker and Nick Fuentes some grace if we didn't see those young Republican chats. You know what I mean? And like that movement, like the behind the scenes of some of that movement, just seeing how aggressive they were against Jewish people and how little condemnation it received. Just from these guys.
Totally.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm starting to clump Loomer with Marjorie Taylor Greene, not just because they're GOP ladies, but just because they seem to really believe both the crazy, like their values are what they are, whether I think they're crazy or not, which again, I think is probably more respectable than just shilling like Mike Johnson does. Like Mike Johnson is, I think, maybe even lower on the totem pole. I mean, another interesting story this week. So we've been talking a little bit about it over the show, this kind of $2,000 rebate to households because of this tariff coffer thing that they're saying, where they're saying, oh, we're going to take money from the tariffs and redistribute the wealth. Again, to your point, Rick, excuse me, that's not at all a capitalistic move at all, right? Demand side, supply side economics, rather, like just like giving people checks because you're making money, like that at no shape or form is like a classic conservative idea. And so not unsurprisingly, a lot of Senate Republicans don't like it. They now all of a sudden they're talking about congressional authorization. They're talking about, surprisingly, they would want to do the checks around the 2026 midterms. That's not surprising. But yeah, again, it's kind of the more interesting kind of content on this kind of populist kind of economics versus the typical, fake fiscal hawks the GOP, I guess you could say. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this?
Yeah, Trump's own Treasury Secretary was one of the people that said, hey, hold on a second. We need legislation for this. You know, just because Trump could do the tariffs unilaterally doesn't mean he can do anything unilaterally, like send checks to everyone.
Yeah.
Also, besides the fact that obviously tariffs are typically passed on to the
they're a tax,
consumer.
Yeah.
Even forgetting that, they've still only brought in at max around $100 billion, and a $2,000 check for all the adults in the US would be over $600 billion. So like, even if Trump ends up sending these checks to everyone and they say tariff rebate on them, they are not tariff rebate. They're just stimulus checks like we
100%.
got during the pandemic, which I would be fine with. Like, I think we probably need more of that, so I'm not complaining. But they could say Trump gold coin on them, and it doesn't change where the money's actually coming from.
100%. And also, you know, the revenue generated from the tariffs is lower than the revenue loss from the tax cuts that got affirmed in the OB3, the big beautiful bill. So yeah, I mean, again, this is all just political charade. Interesting I always find it interesting when they fight amongst each other, and it seems like there's just a lot of infighting. We don't see this conservative infighting that much, at least publicly.
Yeah, for real.
Like this, I feel like we're seeing a lot of it. We're seeing a lot of like, you know, bickering. And probably the last thing, and we should have maybe brought this up with the Zohran stuff, but before they had met Zohran and Trump, that is, the border czar, which I cannot believe that's a real term, Tom Homan, famous for taking a $50,000 bribe and not caring, and no one caring about it. He's been saying recently that he's going to ramp up ICE enforcement in New York City. So to your point, Rick, if that just happens post-meeting, then maybe the schmoozing was all for a naught.
Right, and I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope that Zohran charmed Trump enough to spare his city from more ICE raids, but like, we also have to just acknowledge how depressing of a sentence that is.
Unbelievably so, yeah, 100%.
Like, our best case scenario is that Zohran complimented Trump so much that Trump is going to tell his goons to stand down from imprisoning people without due process because he was personally flattered and charmed by a new mayor. Very depressing that we've got here, but for like people of New York City, I hope that's what happens.
Well, and also, now I'm worried there's a chance where they're going to just say, oh, yeah, no, they're making that up. We're not doing anything in there. Like, ICE is just being normal. And Trump goes, okay. And it's really insanity. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't buy it. I have this feeling, like, we've seen the cabinet meetings. I'm now wondering can he even Google? You know what I mean? Like, is Trump even remotely reading real news ever? Like, what are his briefings? I want to look at this information. What is going... Because, like, we remember term one where there were people there freaking out and quitting because they were, like, trying to be normal in the room. We've all known that that's gone away. I just think we assumed that Trump was enough exposed to the real world that, he's able to question, unrelenting praise. But he's such an egomaniac and he's so old. Maybe that doesn't matter anymore. I'm freaking out about that. I don't know.
Well, think of it. He's, 8 years older than he was when he first took office? More than that, maybe. And back then it was reported that he wouldn't read military briefings if there was a full page of text. He wouldn't. He's unable to read a full page. He can't focus for that long. So they started making illustrations and bullet points for briefings.
And that was 8 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
With people who were actually trying to putting in a good faith effort.
Right.
You know what I mean? These people aren't putting good faith efforts in, I don't think.
Oh.
Like, I don't know. It freaks me out, man. I worry about that. I worry about that, like, we still have 3 more years and, like, it's only going down. You know, I mean,
right.
Dude, we're seeing this guy ramble about if he's going to get into heaven or not on Fox News. Like, oh, you know what? We didn't even talk about this week. Him calling the reporter a piggy. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And he said quiet piggy to the report. Awful. This is why you can't feel bad. He's a monster. Like, he's just such a dick. Like, he's such a dick. Like, there's just no other way to put it. He's such a dick. He would have been he's a reality. He's treating them all like they're Rosie O'Donnell. He just isn't meant for this.
Yeah, he just behaves like if you could think of like, oh, what I want my future child to behave like, or like what I would like a friend to act like. The Trump is the exact opposite in every possible way.
100%. Yeah. And
terrible.
it's crazy that that is real. But that's the news, right? I don't think we have any other thing before we go to the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Anyways, Lonely Liberal merch might be under the works, by the way. I have a hat, a prototype hat for you.
Whoa.
So yeah, anyways, I was gonna say, like,
That's big.
let us know via email or comment if you'd be interested in a Lonely Liberal hat, because we've got one cooking. And it's pretty sweet. We'll post it, but yeah, just a little heads up before we get to the reason why I thought of it is because we should get Culture Corner merch.
Yeah,
like,
that'd be great.
like I survived the corner. No, that's weird. Meet me at the corner. If people have ideas, I mean, we got the good the Furby ideas too. Yeah, so any merch ideas, if people aren't, let us know. Either email us in or just comment. We'd love to hear. But without further ado,
it's time for Rick's Cultural Corner.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
So I thought this week we'd talk about words you cannot say on the internet.
Oh.
Specifically,
are you trying to get us out? What are you trying to do to the show? Are you trying to ruin my career?
If there are children in the room. No. It's actually not exactly about that. So it's about what is now being referred to as algo speak, or algo speak, sorry for algorithm. Algo speak. So it's the self-censoring that people do of words that aren't really bad words. So for example, I'm sure you've seen this, unalive instead of kill.
Yep, instead of kill. Yeah.
Yeah, like Ted Bundy unalived 25 victims because people. So it's basically like you can absolutely say the word kill on the internet. Of course. There's no law or regulation against that. It's so there was this BBC article on Thursday by Thomas German titled "The Words You Can't Say on the Internet," and it describes algo speak as a whole coded language built around the idea social media companies or sanitize our feeds for advertisers. Are there any that you can think of off the bat? Unalive is a big one.
Nazi, maybe? Like, I feel like I've seen like a star in like N star ZI or something like that. Maybe like the word rape too. Like anything like that, like a crime or
grape. People say grape.
Oh yeah. I don't think I can think of any off the top of my head, but I bet you when you say them, they might come to mind, depending on, you know what I mean? I don't know. What do you got? I know you have some in the bag.
I don't have too many, but the big one, other than unalive, was instead of gun, you say pew pew.
Oh my God.
Like they found 7 pew pews in his trunk.
Why? That's so weird. It's so embarrassing. All these pew pews. I hate. Are we in the hell?
Another one, like certain things, like instead of like saying the word retarded as an insult, people will say regarded or redacted, like words that are similar.
Isn't that almost worse?
It does seem worse.
Yeah, it feels like nastier almost.
But the interesting thing about this is like it's unclear if it's actually real or like it's unclear if algorithms actually do bury content with any of these things on them, and if they don't, then this is all meaningless and really dumb that we're using these words.
You know what it reminds me of when you were like little and you'd say HE double hockey sticks?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Which I always thought was funny that it was hockey sticks. Like that's what L double hockey sticks. Like why is that what an L the LL is?
Right.
Or kids bop in general. Like this is like a kid, like we're kids bopping the internet.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Like-
remember? Yeah, Kids Bop of like a Missy Elliott song.
Or Boulevard of Broken Dreams. What's fluffed up and and everything's all right. I remember that. What's fluffed up. You hear it to this day, I think. Like because radio songs still do this, right? Where they'll rewrite a song for the radio and like tweak the words a bit.
Yeah, radio and like network TV still has strict things you can't say. That's why like when athletes swear in like a post-game interview, it's like a huge deal.
You know what? Did you ever watch were you a SpongeBob kid growing up?
Yeah.
So like they're like really good with like Mother of Pearl.
Oh yeah, that's a
holy
classic.
clam. They would just yell stuff like holy
Shut the
fish
front door.
paste. Yeah, exactly. With the French toast. Do you use any of those in your normal conversation, like ever?
No.
The only one I do one, but it comes from my family because my grandmother used to say it, so my mom says it a lot. She'll call people a bi instead of a bitch, and I say that sometimes. I'll be like, "What a bi."
That's a good one.
Freaking bi over there.
He's a bi with bo.
Yeah, exactly. You freaking bi. She does that. I mean, I use schmuck a lot because my parents used it, and that's like a real word, but like I don't think it registers to most people as anything interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Do you ever say schmuck? I feel like you could schmuck.
Yeah, schmuck is a good one.
Schmuck is like, yeah, like stuff like that. Yeah, it's funny how that's come back because that was such a big thing. And I always remember like thinking about radio songs in particular, being like confused what gets censored and what doesn't. And I remember the I chimed in when haven't you people ever heard of closing the damn door, and they blanked God out, and it was not damn. So there was like a little breath there, and I was always thinking like, why not damn and why God? Like I never understood like who makes these calls and like why they do it. Like where is the line drawn?
Right, exactly. Another bad one was Rockstar by Nickelback bleeping out drug and drug dealer. He's got a drug dealer on speed dial. And he bleeped out drug.
Dealer. Yeah, like why is that? But yeah, I guess that's what's happening live, right? They think that they've basically taken Kiss 108 policy and brought it to the internet for algorithm.
Right,
and
I always assumed, like with like the drug dealer one specifically, that like I don't think the FCC has said you can't say the word drug. I think that's them self-censoring themselves ahead of time, saying I don't know if the FCC will have a problem with drug dealers, so we might as well bleep it out because all we care about is listens.
Making money. Yeah, exactly. Well, which is probably what's happening with pew pew instead of gun.
Right. Like all the major social media, so TikTok, Meta, YouTube, they have all denied that this is a thing.
Really?
A YouTube spokesperson said there's no list of banned or restricted words. Our policies reflect our understanding that context matters and words can have different meanings and intent. And the issue with proving it is that, like, this gets into the whole discussion of being shadow banned, which basically means the algorithm is intentionally repressing your views, but it's not outwardly banning you from the platform. So you don't know, let's say you're the poster, you post a video, you don't know that you're shadow banned or being penalized, but just instead of 1,000 people seeing your video, only 100 people see it. Because they're making the algorithm like against you. So there's all these theories and nobody really knows what's going on because the government doesn't want to regulate social media.
Yeah, it's like a weird side effect though.
It's pretty bad because a lot of people have been think it's going on with the Epstein files. Because like there was one user that frequently covers this. Let me find it. And one influencer who talked to the author of the article gives several examples, and he actually said that it's not just like bad words, it's also like for competition purposes. Like if you say the word YouTube in a TikTok video,
oh
it
my
will
god,
suppress
they'll
it.
punish you?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But he said he actually said I've had videos taken down, so it's not just like a shadow ban issue. He said multiple videos covering Epstein files were taken down, and he realized it would only happen when he mentioned Jeffrey Epstein's name. So he started referring to him as the Island Man in his future videos. But another, one interesting thing is in 2023, TikTok actually admitted that it had a heating button, it's calling it, which is basically they handpicked videos to go viral. So it's like a heating button,
Really?
like this video's hot, and they were secretly doing this. But then the obvious question is, like, if you have a heating button, do you have a cooling button?
Yeah, you have to think, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
this whole thing is weird. I don't like it. And I mean, we have some proof that this is true, right? Because what happened when Elon bought Twitter and like the content changed, you know? Like what I get recommended is significantly more Elon adjacent than it used to be. And there's literally no reason for that to be the case unless the algorithm changed.
Right. And I do think, like, some of it I do think is being exaggerated. Like, for example, like the word kill with unalive.
Unalive
because,
is so
like,
common, yeah.
one argument on behalf of the social media companies is that, like, this has been going on for years now, and they obviously would have added the phrase unalive to their list. It's been a thing for so many years. Like, it's not like people that work for these companies don't know that people are getting around this by using other words. So why wouldn't they add the new words to the same list?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. That's a fair point. But unless the ratio is not high enough, right? Maybe it's only like 20% or, you know what I mean? And it's just a large volume, like a numbers game. But yeah, no, you're right. That's a good point. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think do you think it's going to go more and more like that? Or do you think it's going to like just stay kind of like the way it is?
I'm not sure. I hopefully stay the way it is or get like more open and less censored. Just like you said, it sounds like a kid. Like, to me, it seems like a thing a 6-year-old would say.
Yeah.
And it bugs me so much when you're trying to talk about a serious issue. And it's like, oh, this guy unalived himself. Or like, this guy was found with pew-pews. It's like, we can't.
Pew-pews.
Like, we can't have a serious conversation when you say things like that.
Like, this is a disaster. No, I mean, yeah, no. That's an interesting topic, though. I mean, I wonder if we've been shadowed. I mean, I don't pay attention to that at all in the descriptions of these episodes and or topic titles. But I don't think we'd say anything so offensive. Sometimes, though, people will comment with this type of lingo. Like, I've seen people comment Nazi, like Knotzee, when they're trying to say Nazi.
Yeah.
And they must be worried that it's not going to show up. You know what I mean? Like, if they say it. So, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but it's, yeah. I mean, what was the word that you said? The cooling effects of these things? Or what was it? You said this.
Yeah, chilling effect.
Chilling effects. Doesn't it kind of feel like that to an extent? Like
exactly. It's the same thing. It's like, it's self-censorship because they're afraid of unknown censorship by the tech companies. Just like people are now afraid, like comedians are afraid to criticize Trump, even though technically it's totally legal to criticize Trump.
Yep.
It's like, if you don't know if Trump's going to sue you or the federal government's going to come after you, like Colbert and Kimmel, then like you're just going to self-censor yourself and it's going to chill free speech entirely. So yeah, it's definitely the same thing going on here.
It's interesting. And it doesn't at all tie into nicely the question we got from Paul from Minnesota. Paul. But I wanted to bring it up. It's, like I said, not politics related, but it is one that made me laugh. So Paul asked us if we played any sports, basically. And which I laughed at because he's like, what does he think? We never leave the house? Like, is this an attack? Do you guys actually ever go out and exercise? Or
he thinks we're nerds.
Just all day. Is that how we come off? Just like, absolutely.
Hey, dorks, you ever play football?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of how I am sure Paul meant it nicely. But that's how I read it. And I was laughing to myself. So I was like, can't wait to ask this. But yeah, Rick, do you play any sports or what?
Currently?
Yeah. Yeah, Rick, are you in a league?
No.
Well,
No,
you and
not
I
any
will play
sports.
tennis.
Yeah,
like,
me and you
for
play
fun.
tennis.
Yeah.
Started dabbling in golf last year because I'm getting old and I'm an American male.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I guess those are the only like sports that I play. I don't know. How about you?
Tennis. Yeah, it'd be tennis. I mean, obviously, we both played tennis in high school. But I'll play tennis every now and then. I don't really do golf. I mean, I like golf, but it's just expensive and long. And I'll go, but I'm not good at it. And like hitting the ball into the woods is so demoralizing. Like I think I would like golf if I was decent at golf. You know what I mean? And I could like complete 18 holes without a hiccup. But like when you're bombing your drives into the woods, it's just it's unfortunate. It's just not.
The president cheats constantly at golf, so you can do
Yeah,
that
why
too.
am I playing with high integrity? No, I mean, I used to play. I mean, as a kid, you and I played a bunch of sports.
Yeah, baseball, soccer.
Would baseball have been the sport you wish you could have gone pro at? Like, if you had to be good at any sport, or what would you have picked?
100%, yeah. Ball's still my favorite sport, but it's also like, as far as injury concerns and safety, and it's one of the safer major sports. So like to go pro in, like imagine being a pitcher and having to pitch only once every fifth day, and only one of your arms hurts, not like your whole body, and you don't have CTE for the rest of your life. Like,
Oh, amazing!
yeah, baseball for sure. Why? How about which one would you want to go pro in?
Signing. I was like, I can't wait to let these out. I gotta master my signature when I was like 8 years old. No, yeah, that was a funny moment. It would be tennis probably, just because I really like tennis, and a good benefit of tennis is that you're not super famous. So like I think you get like not a lot of celebrity with it in a good way. So you could kind of be like a really good player and not worry about a lot of the downsides of being really famous at a sport.
Totally. And
Like
and I like tennis because you can keep playing past the age of being like a professional athlete,
exactly.
which is nice.
And it's like you can play it anywhere. It's a very low like barrier to entry. If you have the racket and a few tennis balls, like you can basically play anywhere. Which is nice. It is unfortunate that tennis is kind of associated as one of the douchey sports, because like I never thought about it like that, but it is a country club sport, which is unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah, like I don't love being tied to it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Rick, you are innovative for baseball. People don't realize you were the first person I ever knew to throw sidearm in Little League. You had a good sidearm.
My one sports regret, I would say, is I didn't try harder to become a submarine pitcher or a sidearm pitcher.
You're
that
good
was
at the
my
submarine.
I wasn't good enough at baseball to like play it like deep into high school or anything. But like if I really perfected that one weird skill of sidearm pitching, maybe I could have.
Because you could do a submarine. I could. That's not easy to do.
My thing was when people in middle school, when the people you're playing go through puberty and start throwing it over like 60 miles per hour, like the ball just comes at you so fast. And that's like not even close to what they get in high school and then college, then MLB. But already, like when it was like 65 miles per hour, I was like, get me the hell out of here.
And they're wild. They don't have accuracy. So you're just getting you're getting pegged. It's awful. Hitting really ruined it for me. I just couldn't hit the ball, which is unfortunately a big
Yeah, if I could have been a designated fielder, I would have been. I would have kept
Fielding
playing.
was a blast, just running around out there. I like that. Yeah, you're the only person I ever met, I think, that threw it submarine, which is new.
But the coaches always used to yell at you back then because they would go, "You're going to blow your arm out."
Exactly. I'd say too with baseball, outside of the 1 year my dad was the coach, like that was the meanest coaches I had were in baseball compared to other like youth sports. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah, well, we have we have some history with mean coaches. I agree.
Yeah.
Baseball was the most aggressive, but we also, me and you both, had a pretty mean soccer coach, and this was before we were even good friends.
No,
second
we were
grade or something.
absolutely scolded by it. Where was he from? Like Latvia? Like he was from some Eastern European country, and he would absolutely skewer you if you made a mistake.
I remember like 90% of soccer practice would just be distance running, long distance running.
We're 7.
And he was like, you guys gotta have cardio capacity. He was like, we're 6 years old, dude. We're trying to kick a ball into that.
We're doing high knees, just we're 6 years old. What's going on? Yeah, the baseball coaches, there was a lot of psychological warfare though at practices. They'd be like, "What? You failed your team.
Oh,
you
yeah.
failed everyone with that at bat."
A lot of trauma from the older generation being pushed down to us.
And it sucks because baseball should be so fun. You're just hanging out with your friends half the time, and it's just them just going, "What was that?" Just
You blew it.
You blew it. I was thinking about Little League the other day because I was thinking about how into it the umps got to it. Like, they would pretend it was an MLB game, the umps, when they were calling balls and strikes. Like, they were going full blown.
But yeah, it would be like a 7-year-old kid would like strike out and it'd be like strike. Like they do a whole performance. Like, dude, you're really rubbing it in. That's the worst moment of this kid's life.
That kid's 8, and you're like, strike. They're yelling. They don't know how to slide. They're 7. And it's especially egregious now looking back on it because you see how tiny 7-year-olds look. Like, when you're 7, you don't think, oh my God, I'm not even a human being.
Right.
But like thinking about a 40-year-old going, "Get out of here," to an 8-year-old just screaming at them. It's just a weird job. It's a weird thing to do.
Right.
It's the love of the game, though. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, and yeah, tennis is good. We had an interesting tennis coach that, probably changed our outlook on tennis, in an interesting way that a lot of people didn't have.
Right. Yeah. He was. I think he forgot that I was on the team at one point. I wasn't one of the top varsity players, to put it mildly.
You were.
And what's funny is I did not play tennis freshman year. You played every year. I didn't play freshman year. But I started like casually playing tennis during that spring season. So I would be like hanging out at the tennis courts, and then I decided to join the team sophomore year. But I don't think the coach ever realized I formally joined the team. Like, I thought he thought I was still just hanging out like the year before.
He just didn't put you in. We would like laugh about it. When will he acknowledge Rick's existence? He wouldn't. He was an interesting character, and he was like very into partying, which is an interesting move because again, tennis kind of has a douchey kind of connotation. He was more of a stoner alcoholic, and much more into the ladies than a lot of people you would like to see their coach. But you never know. Good guy. I actually don't think he's around anymore, so I'm not even worried about him listening to this.
Yeah, I wish him well.
I wish him
unless
totally
he's been
well.
convicted of crimes, and then
No, and then I don't, unfortunately. I don't wish him that well.
Got to add a disclaimer in there.
Well, it's a 50-50 with... He taught me everything I knew about tennis and a lot of things. No, I mean, it was interesting, though, because it really was a huge team, too, which I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected, like a 50-person tennis team or whatever.
Yeah, it really exploded our sophomore year.
One of my favorite, it was so cruel. Remember the tryouts where he goes to that poor kid? He goes, "All right, I just want to let everyone know we're going to be announcing cuts and who made the team tomorrow. Before we even get to that, I just want to let you know," I forget his name. It's like Roshan or something. Like, he was like, "You would obviously have no chance of making this team. I just want to let everyone know that. But you are more than happy to be the manager." And he was like, "Let's go." Like, he just didn't have to do that in public. He didn't have to publicly embarrass him. Remember that?
So insulting.
"I just want to, before we get to anything, I just want to, Roshan, you just had no chance in any shape or form to make this
He was
team."
like, "I'm making cuts to the team, and I know your next question is, how in the hell is this kid still allowed?" Well, I'll tell you how. He's the manager.
We had a lot of coaches that were very brash. Our track coach. We had a lot of... it was just a lot. But anyways, yeah. I mean, you and I still play tennis pretty regularly, when the weather permits.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, tennis is good. I don't think we've gotten any better though.
No.
Like, we've both probably gotten worse, even though we still play. But anyway, thank you for the question, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
And that's our show, folks. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Rick, for coming on.
Thank you. I'll talk to you next week.
See you, dude. And that's our show, folks. Thank you so much for listening today. If you like the show, please give it a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. YouTube's like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And let me know what you think. You can either comment on YouTube or send us an email at thelonelyliberalpodcast@gmail.com. Like Rick and I were saying, we love your questions. We love your comments. Send them in. We'll be back Wednesday for a kind of a pre-Thanksgiving show, and then we'll be back on Sunday. So I don't think Thanksgiving should have much of an effect on the pod. So we'll see you next week. Until then, take it easy. Bye.